Good afternoon, everyone in the Asia Pacific time zone, and good morning to those of you who are joining us from Europe and elsewhere in the world. So thank you very much for joining us again today. I will be presenting the latest natural refrigerant market trends and developments as observed at the three leading industry trade shows in February this year. My name is Jan. I am heading the operations of the Atmosphere in Asia Pacific. I'm the co-founder and the CEO of the Atmosphere group. So I'm pleased to be here with you, sharing my personal as well as our corporate opinion about the developments. We have been present in the Japanese market for over 10 years. So we are quite pleased to see how much of a development has been taking place, especially recently. So I will be with you over the next 50 minutes or so. Please don't hesitate to submit your questions. We'll be answering them to the best of our abilities as well. So I will start off with the first trade show that took place in February. We refer to February as the Super February in Japan, precisely because there is a number of trade shows happening. There are a number of trade shows happening in the same month. So HVAC Japan, this time organized after 4 years. The previous version of the HVAC was, unfortunately canceled because of the starting pandemic in 2020. So this show was long anticipated. Unfortunately, it was also affected by the Omicron wave in Japan. A number of the big players in Japan, such as Panasonic and Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, have either canceled their present or reduced their present. So we have missed some of the leading companies to be part of this trade show. However, there was still a lot to see. So first off, our first stop on this journey will be about HVAC and what we have learned there. So the HVAC&R Japan trade show is very much focusing on, of course, HVAC and refrigeration. The focus with natural refrigerants was on the industrial refrigeration, a big part, but there was also a number of innovations for the HVAC part of the industry. So we have published a number of articles about these developments. So some of you might have already read the articles covering the show across the board, CO2, ammonia, hydrocarbons as well. We will go into more detail, but all this coverage is available on our marketplaces, r744.com, ammonia21.com, and hydrocarbons21.com. So I will start with the Nihon Netsugen Systems. Nihon Netsugen Systems is very well known in the industry. They have single-handedly pioneered the CO2 transcritical in the industrial system starting some 4 or 5 years back. They are now the leader of the pack with over 350 units of the industrial condensing unit installed in the Japanese market, mostly in cold storage, but also in other applications. So Nihon Netsugen had a fairly large presence at the show. Number of the CO2 transcritical systems were installed. The systems are for different application, from cold storage to process cooling, brine chiller, and so on. At the booth was also the new product offering present from Guntner, CO2 gas cooler. And newly, Nihon Netsugen has also exhibited the Blue Astrum GEA chiller that we have reported on has been in large demand since last year, and this demand is further continuing this year. So this new trend when it comes to ammonia chiller has been apparently driven by the focus on the net zero. More and more companies, and we have also heard a lot about this trend at a number of presentations yesterday, is really becoming strong in Japan, and the focus on sustainability, energy efficiency is becoming stronger and stronger. So Nihon Netsugen had a large presence at the show, exhibited a number of these systems. The lineup of its solutions is steadily growing. The systems that are now available up till some 120 horsepower. So the units are getting larger and more applications are being served by CO2. So it's great to see this development. And needless to say, Nihonets again is leading the market in Japan when it comes to CO2 industrial refrigeration. And as we have reported, Nihonets again has also installed first of these units in Malaysia. So that's a very interesting milestone. So I have talked about the Blue Astrum as one of the, I believe, for the first time exhibited at the trade show in Japan. And according to Harada-san, who is leading the Nihonets again, of course, there is a large demand for this solution. And this is following the trends that are also to be observed in Europe and elsewhere in the world. So we believe this is a very important indication of where the market might be heading in Japan as well. Another of the traditional leaders in the industrial refrigeration sector, Maekawa. Maekawa has showed a number of systems. Among them was the newly developed CO2 condensing unit. We have learned that there is 70 units planned to be installed in this year. This is to accompany the traditional flagship solution by Maekawa, the ammonia CO2 system, which remains to be the most popular and the system with the highest number of installation in Japan. Over 1,000 units have been already deployed in Japan since many years ago. So there's a number of solutions based on ammonia CO2, and there's also CO2 transcritical, and we are seeing the two competing increasingly. So we see a CO2 cooler that has been also exhibited at the Maekawa as one of the new innovations manufactured by Gunta. Another company having a strong focus on CO2 transcritical and other natural refrigerant solutions, Shibata Welding Construction, has exhibited a number of CO2 transcritical systems at the trade show. This is followed their, I think, debut 4 years ago at the HVAC when they introduced the first CO2 transcritical rack. So we have seen quite a substantial innovation when it comes to lineup of CO2 systems offered by Shibata. There's a number of installations, and this is becoming also one of the traditional players now. Besides the CO2 system, there was also new product exhibited at the show, the air cooler. But besides CO2, of course, there was also a new technology using R290, the ice machine by German manufacturer Maya. So there's a number of offerings in the cold chain sector at the D-Labs by Shibata Welding Construction, and we will be learning more about the installations in the market. So the whole landscape when it comes to CO2 transcritical is becoming more crowded. As I mentioned, companies that were not able to join HVAC because of the ongoing or the Omicron wave. Panasonic, they have the 80 horsepower rack available in the market. Mitsubishi Heavy Industries have recently introduced their 80 horsepower condensing unit for industrial sector. So there is a number of companies that were not able to participate this time, but we know that they are active in the market. So we will see more and more competition between the ammonia CO2 solutions and the CO2 transcritical solutions. And there is plenty of space for everyone. And there is more than several thousands of facilities still using R22 in the Japanese industrial refrigeration sector. So there is a big opportunity for the existing players as well as the newcomers in the market. Moving beyond the refrigeration trend, we were very pleased to see the development on the HVAC side as presented by companies Fujinetsu and Meiwa. So they have presented the concept, the prototype of their joint development, which is an R290 chiller for air conditioning, a small commercial application. This chiller was exhibited to receive the feedback from the industry. It's using R290 propane refrigerant, which is, of course, quite a disruptive technology, especially in country such as Japan, which has been strongly focusing on R32 so far. So Fujinetsu and Meiwa have plans to bring this product to the market, to continue the development and offer the commercialization in April 2024. So we believe we will hear more about this concept, and we applaud Fujinetsu and Meiwa for the role of a pioneer and disruptor in this fairly, let's say, difficult market, but we'll be following the developments here as well. Another players that were present at the HVAC, Tomioka Electronics Industry, actually presented a number of ongoing developments, both using R290 and CO2. The unit that you see in front, located at the table, is actually a specific R290 unit developed by Tomioka using their own design in-house, and it's now being tested as a kind of cassette for the cooling for the showcases. Tomioka has also presented the CO2 showcase, the remote type showcase that will be available for a condensing manufacturer collaboration. So Tomioka is getting started, or is joining this new trend when it comes to natural refrigerants in Japan. We see the good progress since last year, and we believe we'll see the products ready for the market within a short time. Itomic, one of the very few manufacturers that have exhibited a lineup of CO2 heat pumps. So Itomic is very well known for the CO2 commercial heat pumps called EcoCute in Japan traditionally. In Japan, when it comes to CO2 heat pumps, there is more than 8 billion residential CO2 heat pumps already installed in the market. There is thousands of the commercial CO2 heat pumps installed since early 2000. Now, Itomic is increasingly providing their CO2 heat pumps to the markets outside of Japan, namely Australia, but also looking into other parts of the world. So we will see the availability of the CO2 heat pump by companies like Itomic, Mitsubishi Industries, Maikawa, and others to be deployed outside of Japan. And especially now, and we have heard a number of presentations yesterday about the heat pumps. Heat pumps are becoming a very, very important topic of the discussion, especially nowadays with the energy crisis and increasing prices and availability of the some of the traditional fuels, oil, gas, coal, need to eliminate the fossil fuels and reduce the carbon footprint. So the heat pumps are going to stay. We see actually this trend to be very, very strong in Europe. Also, a number of manufacturers have introduced their heat pump solutions, all using CO2, ammonia, hydrocarbons, number of different solutions. So there will be plenty of choices for the manufacturers. Japanese manufacturers have the advantage of 15 years of development of this technology. So we believe there is a good opportunity for the Japanese manufacturers to present their heat pumps outside of Japan as well. Hara Manufacturing has been developing CO2 evaporators for the Japanese market since some 2-3 years ago. They are extending their lineup. They've introduced a number of these units in the projects in Japan. They are one of the first local manufacturers. Basically, majority of the CO2 industrial projects are still using heat exchangers from mostly from Günther, a market leader when it comes to deployment of the heat exchangers in industrial sector with CO2. Harase Sekusho is now the first local player bringing their solutions to the market. So we hope to see more of the local manufacturers to following this important trend. So that would be a first of the 3 trade shows. Maybe I will just take a short pause here and I will ask if there are any questions from the audience as of now.
Yes, so let's just take a quick break to remind everyone that if you have any questions, we are open to answering them throughout the presentation, or at the end, we'll be reserving some time. So go ahead and click the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, or you can also use the chat function to speak with other attendees or speak with us, the speakers. Yeah, and if there are no questions, okay, it looks like we got one. We got one from Anders Yule. Question here, Jan, I'll read out to you. So it's very interesting, Jan. Fujinetsu and Meiwa, are they also for heating? So let me pass that off to you.
Thank you for your question, Anders. Good to see you here again. Have you followed all the 24 hours of the ATMO Summit since yesterday? Good to see you here, and thank you for your question. So as far as we know, this is a chiller with both cooling and heating function. So it's very early days. There is not a unit that is being deployed and tested in the field. This is really the early days. As far as we have discussed with the manufacturer, they really wanted to exhibit this concept to the show to receive the feedback from the industry. They understand that Japan is very much fixed, and we don't have to discuss the specific reasons, but there is a lot of authority when it comes to air conditioning. That's the established solution. And unlike in places like China or India and more Europe, we don't have any contest with R290 solutions. There is no one yet who is bringing the solution to the market. So we understand that Fujinetsu Meiwa, they are making the first steps to receive the feedback from the industry and continue the development. But our understanding is that this is both a heating and cooling unit for the air conditioning. Okay, so I will continue the presentation with our second important trade show, Hoteres Japan. Again, we have been attending these trade shows for over 10 years, annual basis. And Hoteres is very much focused on the light commercial equipment, hotel, restaurant, of course, food service type of equipment. And so far, it has been always, I don't want to say disappointment, but let's say there was a lot to be desired for. And when it comes to deployment of natural refrigerants, we have definitely seen more progress in other parts of the world, especially in both US and Europe, actually. But this year was slightly different. We have seen more of the established leaders to flirt, at least, or to introduce new concepts, and some of them have continued the development of the technologies introduced last year. So still a lot of 410A, still a little too much of R134A. Some of the new blends, such as 448A, which we believe is very short-sighted. But that put aside, when it comes to natural refrigerants, let us look at what was observed. So light commercial refrigeration, again, the sectors covering hotels, restaurants, cafes, food service, and a lot of the traditional companies in this sector are always present. So the two most important developments are by both Daiwa and Hoshizaki. Daiwa and Hoshizaki are among the leading companies in this sector when it comes to restaurants, food service, commercial freezers, small cabinets, ice machines, that kind of equipment, not a large industrial type of, or not the large retail type of commercial refrigeration systems, but rather this commercial freezer type of equipment. So Daiwa, they have introduced a second time in a row their 600A beverage showcase for food service and hospitality. That was not new. They continue this deployment in the market. And Hoshizaki has introduced a new concept. So I will go into the detail very soon. So these are the two main developments. First of Hoshizaki. So Hoshizaki is one of the leaders in this sector, along with Daiwa, Fukushima, Galilei, Panasonic. These 4 or 5 companies are having basically the most of the market, and Hoshizaki perhaps the leader of the pack. Now, it was, we have been waiting a long time for Hoshizaki to come out of the closet with their offering when it comes to natural refrigerants. We were pleased that they have introduced the first hydrocarbon machine, details of which will be introduced later this year. But this is a very important step that Hoshizaki has proudly announced, this coming soon concept using hydrocarbon 600A. And there will be some other, let's say, clarification when it comes to the refrigerants deployed, all using natural refrigerants, but more of this, the details of this technology will be disclosed later on. Nevertheless, Hoshizaki is now becoming more comfortable in presenting this technology in the Japanese market. We know that Hoshizaki has been selling natural refrigerants, R290 600A in Europe, in US, in America. Actually, they have sold 235,000 pieces of equipment using hydrocarbons outside of Japan, and yet to deploy it in Japan. So we are glad that Hoshizaki is starting to take it more seriously when it comes to using this technology in Japan, and the technology will be hopefully soon ready for the end users. So an important milestone reached, let's say, in Japan on this front. Daikin, since its acquisition of AHT, when it comes to commercial refrigeration, Daikin has been openly promoting R290 solutions, first showcasing AHT technology. Nowadays, Daikin has last year announced a Daikin branded lineup of R290 600A commercial freezers and plug-in cases. So Daikin is actually at all trade shows had a strong presence when it comes to R290, which is great to see. Of course, we are talking about the refrigeration side, and they have deployed several thousands of the units in the market. So Daikin is becoming a very strong player when it comes to R290 in domestic market on the low temperature. And what is important to say that the fact that Daikin branded R290 showcases are now available in the market has helped change the perception completely. And we will see the results as I will be also talking about the supermarket trade show, the third of the trade shows introduced today. So Daikin has changed the market by its involvement with R290, and we will see the effect in presence of international suppliers as well as the domestic brands going into this direction. Hydrocarbons are not what's the right word? It was feared, it was unknown, it was not available, and nowadays things are changing. There's domestic strong players embracing the solution, and basically in very short time, the market has changed completely and everyone is doing R290. That's kind of the take. I will go into more details. So this is an example of the chest freezers by Daikin using both R290 and 600A. Daiwa I have discussed before already. These are the plug-in drink showcases. But what we find more exciting is the Daiwas also in the small poster in this part of the show presented that they will be cooperating and collaborating with a Thai-based manufacturer, and they will be introducing the R290 lineup of the commercial freezer and this on-the-counter refrigerator to the Southeast Asian network of Daiwa. So we hope that this is just a step away from also making this offering in Japanese market and then joining the world when it comes to converting this food service technology to hydrocarbons. So again, we applaud this. We hope that very soon from the overseas only, we will also see a domestically available models, hopefully next year, but step by step. Atomic, again, fairly present at all the trade shows with their CO2 heat pumps and other offering. So this is established technology in the Japanese market. I have already discussed this before, so I will pass through. We will, when it comes to the R290, right? So I've mentioned that there is a number of companies. Raytec is one of the exhibitors that have actually pioneered the R290 7-8 years ago. That's about when it all started for Raytec. They were working very closely with AHT and other brands. Nowadays, they are focusing more and more on the Liebherr R290 600A technology. They have had an exhibition at the, they were present at the Hoteres trade show. All the technology displays was hydrocarbons. And again, they were one of the first pioneers when it comes to bringing R290 to Japan. So they deserve a lot of credit for leading this trend. I will pause a little bit again to sip of my coffee and see if there is a possible question after our second part. If not, I will continue with the supermarket trade show.
Yeah, thank you, Jan. So we'll take a short break here just to see if anybody has any questions about some of these really major developments that we haven't seen in a really long time in the Japanese industry. I mean, yeah, both Jan and I have been attending these events in Japan for a long time, Jan longer than me, but I can say as well that some of the biggest developments in the Japanese industry with natural refrigerants in the light commercial refrigeration sector and in the larger industrial refrigeration sector have been really exciting to see. So we're really excited to share that with you all today. But now we're going to move on to the, let's see, we got one comment here. Okay, yeah. Everybody go grab your coffee. Still early in the morning for a lot of our viewers. So yeah, so we'll keep things moving here. Jan, I'll hand it back off to you.
Thank you, Devin. Hopefully Anders will be able to grab a coffee quickly, not to miss some of the most exciting of what was happening in this Super February in Japan. So Supermarket Trade Show is probably one of the best shows for retailers in Japan, in Asia Pacific. This is the Euroshop of Japan, I think on par with China Shop, Euroshop, and Supermarket Trade Show. So this is the time and place for the retailers and for the suppliers for the retailers to really be present, and it didn't disappoint. There was a lot going on. Supermarket Trade Show had more luck when it comes to the timing. It was not affected by the Omicron wave. Actually, it was much better timed. So in that context, for the HVAC, there was a bit of a shame that a number of the leading suppliers have canceled their presence last minute. It was not the case for Supermarket Trade Show. So let's look at what happened in Japan that time. So again, you could find, some of you might have already read a number of our articles from Supermarket Trade Show, ranging from the established CO2 solutions to largest ever presence of R290 solutions in Japan in the last 10 years. So we have counted 10 companies, exhibiting, promoting, offering R290 to Japanese retailers. It was never the case in past. This is really a milestone for the Japanese industry. The fact that the retailers have now clear option between CO2 and R290 from number of manufacturers. The market is reaching its competitiveness. It's competitive market now with number of competing solutions, and this is of course important for the development and ultimately the competition against the polluting HFCs and possible some emerging HFO solutions. So it was great to see the progress, and let's now dig into more detail. Starting with Panasonic. Panasonic, of course, is the pioneer when it comes to natural refrigerants in retail. The first stores go back to 2010. The first condensing units developed, the 10 to 15 horsepower condensing unit that are now deployed in thousands in Japan, and increasingly more. There's I think over 1,000 units deployed in Europe. There's installations in Southeast Asia, Indonesia, Malaysia, Australia is having a number of the the condensing units by Panasonic, working with Hussmann installed. China, there is a number of these systems installed around the world by now. Now, what was new at this supermarket trade show? When it comes to CO2 transcritical, Panasonic has introduced the brand new 40 horsepower condensing unit and have also showcased the 4 horsepower condensing unit that is now available in Europe. That was actually newly developed for the Europe. The 40 horsepower unit is now available in Japan, or will be shortly available in Japan, and it's the continuation of the increase in size of the condensing unit that Panasonic is offering for the retail. So some of the description above and on the side basically demonstrate how introduction of these larger units will help the retailers to reduce the cost, reduce the space needed for installation, and increase the efficiency. So this is another step of the leading CO2 provider for the retail in Japan into serving the market. Another trend that was observed at the Panasonic booth was the exhibit of the R290 showcases. So it's known that Panasonic is focusing on the CO2 when it comes to its retail strategy. However, I think this year we have witnessed such a strong wave when it comes to R290 that Panasonic might react to that, and we'll see maybe one day there will be Panasonic branded R290 showcases as well. For now, the cooperation with EARP, so Panasonic is also offering R290 showcases. We will see for what future holds for this cooperation or for the further development when it comes to R290 at Panasonic. But Panasonic is among the suppliers that offer R290 to its customers. Next up, Daikin. Daikin, again, deserves, I think, a lot of credit for helping to change the awareness of R290 in retail. Something that we have seen in Europe more than 10 years ago, maybe 15, 20 years ago, elsewhere in the world. This is including places like China, Southeast Asia. R290 has been deployed in retail since years back. Japan has not been the case until recently, and Daikin announcing this new lineup of Daikin branded showcases, basically the AHT manufactured Daikin branded lineup of showcases for retail, ranging from plugins to what loop configuration, is a game changer for Japan, and we see the influence across the board. So there was the whole exhibit of Daikin in Japan was R290. Was natural refrigerant for, of course, low temperature applications. So we will see how the market evolves from here. But again, this is an important milestone for the industry. And for the first time to show this water loop configuration as well. Some of the new design models. Again, this is not surprising. If we have an audience from Europe, you might be asking, what's new here? This has been the business as usual for over 15 years or so in Europe. So in Japan, we took our time, but we're glad to see that we are now, catching up with the world when it comes to deployment of this natural refrigerant solution. And finally, this is the water loop new systems introduced by Daikin in Japan for the first time. Next up, Nihon Netsugen Systems. So I have already talked about Nihon Netsugen's leadership when it comes to CO2 transcritical in industrial sector. Nihon Netsugen has also undertaken the role of a pioneer when it comes to introducing R290 water loop concept to Japanese market for the first time, I believe 3 years ago. So the lineup of the R290 Freor technology, in this case, has been extended, and we do hope to see first, of these systems to be installed in the Japanese market this year. So that's a second or one of the three of the water loop systems now available in the Japanese market. Some more detail of the FREOR showcases the water loop configuration. You can see the connection for the water loop here. FREOR has been one of the leading manufacturers in Europe with hundreds of installations, if not more. So again, it's great to see this access to new technologies for Japanese retailers. Some of the plugin, actually all of these were to be configured as a water loop. And finally, we are moving on to Raytech. Again, they were present at the Hoteres trade show. The presence at the supermarket trade show was larger. And this is where they really showcased the new strategy, their focus to cooperate with Liebherr as one of the leading manufacturers. And for the first time, they have showcased the Liebherr water loop solution. Again, all of the exhibit showcases were using hydrocarbons R290. And they had a strong presence with full lineup of the technology. They are yet to be deployed. These models are yet to be deployed in Japan. But Raytech has been one of the pioneers of hydrocarbons in Japan. So it's good to see another option. So we now have several companies offering full lineup of R290 solutions. And the race is on, or who will be the first with the water loop system installed in Japan? What will be the retailer making that steps? And we are hearing rumors that we should see one of these systems up and running this year. So looking forward to bringing more information to you in a few months' time. So this is the Liebherr water loop showcase configuration. All of it very sleek technology. So it's really good to see Japan to have access to the to the new technology that is out there. It was too much of old technologies, and then still, of course, at trade shows you can find 410A, and you can find 134A, and you can find 448A. Unfortunately, we don't believe that's the future-proof solution. But the important thing is there is more and more natural refrigerant-based solutions. The market is highly competitive. The subsidy is available for both CO2 and R290. And we will see these systems making it to the market. Next up, Sanden. Sanden has been known for one of the pioneers when it comes to CO2 technology many years ago. You may remember that they have provided hundreds of thousands of CO2 compressors and CO2 vending machines to companies like Coca-Cola. Nowadays, Sanden has changed a lot. Some of the divisions were closed, some of them were split. The presence of Sanden at the supermarket trade show was focusing on the new 6 horsepower condensing unit and the remote type showcase, as well as some R290 small type plug-in equipment. So we hope that Sanden will regain its strength when it comes to new natural refrigerants offering for Japanese retail. And we hope to hear more about the installations as we go. So still, Sanden is there present on both CO2 and R290 front. These are some of the examples of the systems exhibited. Moving on, Galilei, formerly known as Fukushima Industries. Large presence of the 4488, similar to Panasonic and some of the other companies. However, there was a CO2 showcases on display at the trade show, and there were also a surprise when it comes to R290. So Galilei has been working with CO2 for some time. They cooperated with the condensing unit manufacturer, namely Mitsubishi Heavy Industries. I think they are open for business. They have introduced a new plug-in CO2 showcase as well at the trade show. So there is some presence of natural refrigerants. However, it has not been the case to demonstrate and to present CO2 as the main strategy of the business, which is slightly disappointing. This is one of the surprises. We could see Galilei branded R290 showcases that resemble technology of one of the very well-known manufacturers, HD. So this confirms the cooperation between HD, aka Daikin Group, and Galilei when it comes to R290, which we think is a very smart move to offer the R290 solutions to its customers with Galilei brand, and we may see additional of such cooperations going forward. And that was my last slide from the Super February trade show. I hope that you found it informative, interesting. I am now available for some of your questions. So let me catch up my breath a little bit, and I'm here.
Thanks a lot, Jan. We'll wait a few minutes just to see if anybody joining us right now has any questions. We have about 5 to 10 minutes left. But we hope that that was informative, and we hope that if you have any other questions or thoughts about these developments in the Japanese market, we'd love to hear from you. Maybe let me just start off, Jan, I'll ask you one question. We have a lot of manufacturers and experts joining us from overseas, and for a long time, everybody has been thinking about what opportunities are there for overseas manufacturers in the Japanese market, especially with the developments that we saw this year, the past 3 months. In your opinion, going forward in the next few years, what are the biggest opportunities for overseas companies to cooperate or get involved in the Japanese market?
Thank you, Devin, for the question. The opportunities are plentiful. That would be the simple answer. I will go into a little bit more detail. So we can look at the different sectors of the refrigeration industry, from industrial, commercial to light commercial. There has always been an opportunity for the component suppliers to, and it's still the case, of course. Namely, you can see the transcritical compressor manufacturers to have established business in Japan, working with companies like Nihon Etsugen. You have Guntner is an example of the heat exchanger manufacturer who is dominating the local market. You have companies like Temprite, you have companies like Carel working with the local OEMs manufacturing. They are basically providing the technologies and know-how that have not been developed or are manufactured by the local companies, the number of the local companies. So there is two business models. On one hand, companies that are manufacturing pretty much everything in-house, from the controls, heat exchangers, compressors. I can name companies like Panasonic or Mitsubishi Heavy Industries. And there is another aspect on the industrial side that is basically the typical or following more the European model of assembling of racks, working with different suppliers. So there has been always a very good opportunity for the suppliers that are ready to commit to the market. And sometimes it takes time and effort, of course, to make the inroads, but it's a market that has been very stable for the suppliers who have made the commitment. There's a number of these examples. What we see newly is the opportunity for the system manufacturers when it comes to R290 plugins. So we talked about HD, Daikin, we talked about Liebherr, we talked about other brands that basically there is not yet established R290 showcase manufacturing in Japan or under the traditional brands. So we believe that will change. There's opportunity for the system manufacturers on that front. There's also opportunity for the component manufacturers to supply compressors, controls, other elements to these systems. So the Japanese OEMs, some of them have been leading the sector. I have talked about many of them, and many others are only just awakening to the new reality of natural refrigerants in refrigeration. So there is a lot of, there's some level of panic in some of these companies, not having the know-how when it comes to CO2 transcritical, not having the know-how when it comes to hydrocarbons, flammable refrigerants. So we will see there will be some catching up, and there's still a number of companies who are not yet fully awakened to the new reality of sustainable refrigeration, low GWP, natural refrigerants, efficiency, and so on. So there's, especially in the food service sector, there's still too much of the 134A, 410A technology that is basically being banned in Europe. No one will be exhibiting this technology at the Euroshop. I can tell you that. So there is a lot of opportunity for the industry. I would say that it's important that they are ready to commit to the market. It's not an easy market to enter, but there is plenty of opportunities. As I mentioned, there is thousands and thousands of facilities using R22 in industrial refrigeration sector in Japan. Still, for the reasons I won't go into detail right now, for the historic reasons, but there's a huge opportunity on the industrial side. There is a big opportunity on the hydrocarbon side, and we haven't even talked about the disruption of the possible air conditioning sector on the chiller side, etc. So this is just getting started. We have a question here from Win van de Zande. I hope I pronounced it well. Is there a market potential for natural refrigerant for heat pumps in Japan? So thank you for your question, Wim. I mentioned that Japan has been the mecca of the CO2 heat pumps for hot water production on both the residential and industrial. So actually Japan is the most advanced country when it comes to heat pump for air to water heat pumps, basically for domestic hot water and for the hot water for the commercial process. So on the CO2 side, I think it will be very difficult to compete with the established and highly saturated Japanese market. On the industrial side, you have companies such as Maikawa that are also serving this. I would say on perhaps a very large size, but I don't see that happening. I think it will be very difficult for the international suppliers to compete in that space, since big part of the market on both the residential and commercial and industrial sides heat pumps is served by the CO2 number of established players. I think we might have a question. We have a space for one more question from our audience, so we'll be the faster in submitting a question. Please.
Yeah, Jan. Just a comment to add on to your to this discussion about heat pumps. And one of the things I've seen is heat pumps. There's a big confusion around the use of that term. Japan also is a big deployer of heat pumps in the air conditioning for residential air conditioning, split type air conditioners, other words, that can both heat and cool. And of course, we saw some of this in Jan's presentation with Fujinetsu and Meiwa cooperating for smaller, what they're calling heat pumps as well, which are also basically reversible air conditioners with R290s. So yeah, I think it's important not to forget that we are also speaking about residential air conditioning, reversible heating and cooling as well. So there are opportunities for natural refrigerants there also, it seems. Is that right? Or would you agree?
Very good, very good. Thank you, Devin, for this clarification. So yeah, heat pumps is a very universal term. My understanding was that this was a question about the hot water production when it comes to split type air conditioning with R290. What should I say? Well, it won't be the pioneering country. We know that there is a number of leading manufacturers here. The trend has been set a couple of years ago. It's R32. Japan will very likely not be the country switching to R290 anytime soon. However, we might see some development over the coming years, and I personally intend to showcase some of this technology at my own place. So I do hope to be spearheading this R290 development when it comes to air conditioning in Japan and heat pumps. I'm available for the suppliers who are ready to work with me on this showcase. So that, jokes aside, I do believe that there will be more and more interest in this technology as we see the developments taking place, mostly in Europe. I think we need Europe to see some serious deployment. So far, it has been just talking on the R290 split type air conditioning. So we need to see some inroads. Of course, the world is looking at how far the Godrej in India and the Mideas and other suppliers in China will get with their R290 splits. that's something that will not change. What is important to mention yesterday, we heard one of the presentations was the latest on the IEC -2-40 safety standard on air conditioning, and the vote for the increased charge of hydrocarbons in split type air conditioning close to 1 kilo. And the final vote on this new proposal, something that has been worked on for over, I would say, 6 or 7 years, will be actually end of April. So there's a very important milestone ahead of the industry on this front. In Japan, I don't expect any pioneering trends taking place. Of course, Fujinetsu is a sign of change, possibly. So we'll be working closely with Fujinetsu and monitoring their developments. And again, hope to see more of these type of developments in the near future. I believe we have reached our time available. I will be getting ready for our next presentation by TECO. And they will be speaking about the CO2 industrial developments and some of their patented technology increasing the efficiency. So don't miss our last presentation of the 24-hour ATMO World Summit 2022. And again, we thank you for the attention. This recording will be available on multiple of our platforms. It is already available on YouTube. It will be shortly. And we will be also reporting on all the other presentations in the last 24 hours. So again, thank you for tuning in today. And we look forward to engaging with you soon.